Welcome to the AI PMM webinar series. Today we are talking about the differences between project management and product management. The AI PMM is the Association of International Product Marketing and Management, who brings you these weekly webinar series. It was founded in 1998. It is the largest product management professional group and provides professional development and certification. And our speaker today, Hector, will tell you a lot more about the AI PMM benefits and values of membership. I am Cindy F. Solomon, your moderator. Delighted to be with you today. I am the founder of the Global Product Management Talk, the weekly broadcast on the Blog Talk Radio Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Cindy F. Solomon, on Mondays at Prod Management Talk, and you can go to blogtalkradio.com/PRODMGMTTALK to hear archives and see the upcoming schedule of speakers. Today's speaker, Hector, has been on the Global Product Management Talk and is quite prolific in sharing information about product management, excellence, and forwarding the career path for product managers. Now, I'm delighted to introduce him to you. Hector, take it away. Wait, no, actually, a few other things before Hector takes it away. One of them is, please put your questions in the questions box. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so please use the questions box for your questions and keep your chat box open. I will be amplifying some of the key information that Hector is sharing and also answering, giving you information relevant that everyone needs to know. And the slides, today's slides will be available on the AI PMM site at www.aipmm.com. Yes, and if you're tweeting, Hector's handle is at HMDelCastillo, the AIPMM at AIPMM. You should follow on Twitter because they are always posting excellent product management jobs and opportunities right into the Twitter feed. You can follow Prod Management Talk, and if you are tweeting today, the standard hashtag for product management issues is #PRODMGMT. By the way, I don't know if we have a slide for it, but there will be a drawing at the end to win AIPMM Premium membership. And the drawing will be chosen from the participants who are asking questions. So if you want to be entered into that drawing, definitely ask questions inside the questions box. And take it away now, Hector. Great to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy, and hello. Thank you for attending. Here's a little bit more about myself and my background. I'm not necessarily going to get into a lot of discussion regarding my background. This particular presentation is really meant to be more of information regarding the two roles that exist within product-driven organizations. We're going to talk about the basic differences between project management and product management. And here's a list of things that we'll be covering in this particular discussion. And I have a few questions that I'm going to be asking you to submit your answers. There'll be multiple choice questions. There's a couple of them in the introduction as we talk about, number one, the common challenges and common responsibilities of both roles. And then we'll get into a discussion regarding the key differences between the two roles. We're going to be comparing the framework and the bodies of knowledge for both functions. And before we wrap up, we'll conclude with key takeaways to keep in mind as we cover the entire material. And once again, we'll be having a drawing at the end, so stay tuned. You must be present to win. And I encourage you to submit questions so that we can cover those at the end. So the first thing is common challenges. There's a study that was done that was entailed interviews as well as surveys of experienced product managers and marketing managers from different organizations, different kinds of companies, different sizes, and across industries. And these are the three things that came out of the outcome of those interviews and surveys. These are experienced product managers and marketing managers from different organizations, different companies in corporate America. The first thing is that few people understand the role, and that means that few people within the company understand the role of product management. Also, the roles and responsibilities can be very unclear, and therefore, often product managers get involved in too much tactical coordination. Finally, also often they lack the authority to carry out the responsibilities, and therefore they have very little influence on things that could impact product performance and product results. Things like branding, as well as the selection of distribution channels and/or advertising and messaging for marketing of products. And it's not very uncommon that if you talk to project managers, often they will actually communicate the same issues when it comes to their role, their function within their company. So these issues actually are common challenges for both roles and both functions within organizations. And if you compare the similarities between the two roles, some of the key things that come to mind are things like both roles align activities that are performed by cross-functional teams with the company's strategic objectives. In addition, both roles rely on strong, influential, and collaborative skills to guide critical decisions that have to be made about projects and/or products as well. In addition, both roles orchestrate key activities and manage key deliverables depending on where in the project or where in the product lifecycle activities are going on. And if you look at the implementation of these functions, and if you look at the top most admired companies, it is clear that both roles exist and can collaborate together in different companies. Companies like Apple, Google, and Amazon have lots of product managers working alongside project managers, and you can basically go across many of the companies that are here listed and the top 100 companies in this list, and you will see the pattern that most companies that are very well regarded and admired by investors actually have both roles implemented and working together. So one of the first questions is, what is product management? And if you look at the key definitions and the top three things that you can say about project management is that it's an organizational function which helps in planning, organizing, securing, and managing resources. It applies to processes and knowledge over time, and it helps in aligning cross-functional teams to complete projects successfully. So that is the key definition of project management. And here's a question up for you. What is the most important task for a project manager given that definition? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C, D, or E? I'm going to pause here for a few seconds to give you a chance to answer which of these you believe is the most important task for any project manager.
Hi, Hector. We could have set up a poll for this. But please, you can answer in the questions box, and I will try and give Hector the statistical results.
So once again, if you can pick one of the 5 answers and just let me know which one is your best choice given the information that we've talked about.
So there's a lot of B's. Sorry,
okay.
that wasn't data specific, but it looks like the majority of responses that are coming in. Wait, there's a couple of E's, 1 D, mostly B's.
Okay. Here's the right answer. Based on, it's actually E. When you look at project management, and we'll talk more about the essence of project management, everything that a project manager does is to ensure quality of project results. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So here's a definition of product management. So it's an organizational function that happens throughout the product lifecycle. It's proactive planning of products and aligns cross-functional teams to create and support a specific product. That is the essence of product management as a function. So I have a second question. Given this information, what is the most important task for a product manager? And once again, I would like to ask you to use the question window to answer in one of these 5 options. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Or is it E? Which one do you believe is the best answer for the most important task for any product manager? And I will give you a few seconds to think about the answer, and if you can submit it using the question window, Cindy will provide the information about where the majority of the answers are if there's a pattern.
So I think they're definitely paying attention, Hector, because most of the answers coming in are E.
Okay, so let's look at what the right answer is. And this is key because it's great to understand the difference between the 2 roles. And this is where often both roles get confused. Product management is really about looking at creation of new revenue streams for the company, and then focusing on figuring out how to maximize profit over time for products that have been introduced to market. And we'll talk more a little bit about this, but the main difference is that project management focuses on delivering high quality for any project, whereas product management focuses on maximizing profit over time for a company. So let's move on a little bit more and talk about additional differences between the 2 roles. So let's talk about roles and responsibilities. Project management, if you look at the triple constraint, it's all about managing cost of a project, the scope of a project, and the schedule, all of which are all interrelated and may impact quality. And the constraint comes in that you have to be very aware of what is your top constraint. Is it scope? Is it schedule? Is it cost or your budget? And how do you ensure that you can then manage these 3 constraints to ensure high quality project results? Look at product management and the triple constraint. It's really a little bit different. It really is about understanding market and customers, as well as the business side of things, in order to create a product that delivers value to multiple stakeholders. And value, very much like beauty has multiple stakeholders, a product has to deliver value to customers, into a market, as well as to the business that is introducing and supporting that product. So as a product manager, you have to be aware that What is the perceived value from the customer's point of view, the perceived value from the business point of view, meaning your executives, your investors, and what is the value that you're delivering into a market when you're coming into a market, the market where the industry where you exist, or where the product is sold and exists. So that is the essence of contrast and comparison between the two functions of product management and project management. One focuses mostly on managing quality. Product management focuses on really managing the value that you're delivering to multiple stakeholders. In a work environment, and if you are either a project manager or a product manager, you're managing cross-functional teams. And in most cases in any organization, there are forces that sort of shape the environment that impact any functional manager. You can be either externally focused or internally focused. You can be tactical versus being strategic. And in many cases, you've got to be a little bit of all of those four different things. So if you look at the essence of project management versus product management, here's where the difference lies in the work environment. Both roles get drawn into tactical activities. I mentioned that earlier. That's one of the results that was found when experienced product managers were interviewed. And I've talked to many project managers who feel very much the same, that in many cases, they are drawn into many tactical activities and making decisions about tactical activities rather than being strategic. Both roles also should stay focused on strategic objectives. And the result is that in reality, project managers are mostly internally focused, whereas product managers are mostly externally focused, meaning that they need to understand market and customers and are responsible for ensuring that information is well understood and communicated to everyone internal to the organization. And if you look at a comparison of the number of interfaces, both roles really bring a different perspective. So on the left side of this chart, you see a typical function of project management and all the different functions within an organization that they usually will interface with on a daily basis. And you will see that in here, the project manager will interface with product management team. They will also interface with the business analysis team, as well as the user design team, the technical lead or development team, the QA lead, as well as manufacturing and operations manager. And sometimes they will be also communicating with customer support. So that's project management. Product management as a function will entail additional interfaces that usually project managers don't have to deal with. Additional functions such as marketing, sales, finance, legal, and often also the customer service staff. These are additional interfaces that product management has that typically project managers don't. And if you look at the number of interfaces between and compare, usually the number of interfaces that project management has to deal with is larger compared to that of project management. So that's another difference. And in reality, when you look at one versus the other, both roles are needed. They bring a different perspective when critical decisions need to be made within an organization. So if you look at essence, project managers really guide key decisions to maximize quality and minimize the risk. And they're actually managing cross-functional teams to make sure that they can either eliminate or mitigate risk factors that are known. when they're managing projects. Product managers, on the other hand, are guiding key decisions that happen within a company, focused on maximizing value and then creating new revenue streams for the organization. Now, if we're going to get into a comparison of frameworks, and this is a comparison of frameworks from the Project Management Institute and also the framework from the AIPMM for product management and marketing. So out of the PMI PMBOK, the body of knowledge for project management, here's what a typical project lifecycle looks like. Any project will have an initiation or a start. It'll go through the process of organization and preparing for execution of the project. Then it goes into the implementation of the project. And then finally, it has a closure. So there's 5 different phases in any project. Information is what the PMBOK is all about. The 5 phase groups that entail initiation of a project, the planning of a project, the execution of the project, then the monitoring and controlling or the management of the project, and then finally the closure of a project. And there are 9 different knowledge areas involved in managing any project. So that is the introduction to the project management framework as defined by the Project Management Institute. So this is basically the basis for those of you that have become certified project management professionals from PMI. On the other hand, if you compare the typical product life cycle, you see a very similar curve, but a very different application. In this case, the y-axis is all about revenue or sales or unit volume sold into a market. And then the x-axis is time. And you can see that there are 4 different stages or phases of a product, which includes introduction, then growth, then maturity, and then eventual decline. When you take a look at how do you actually provide a product management framework or structure, AIPMM has divided this typical product lifecycle into 7 separate and distinct phase groups. First one is conceive, then plan, then develop, and qualify. In this first 4 phases, nothing yet is available into a market because it has not been launched into a market. Simply, the organization is busy building a product that they're going to be ready to introduce into market at some point. It's not until the launch phase is when the actual product is introduced into a market. Then the deliver phase includes the growth and maturity that we saw earlier in the typical product lifecycle. And then eventually, the last phase is retirement of a product. And this is when an organization has to withdraw a product because it's not a sustainable situation to keep it in market. So this is the definition of the 7 different phases of a typical product lifecycle. Furthermore, down into a framework, the 7 phases consist of 5 different knowledge areas as depicted here. And this is the difference between the framework of project management compared to the framework of product management. So how do you integrate both of these is a question, because we know that both roles coexist in different organizations and both roles work together and collaborate to make sure that product outcomes are successful. So let's take a look at how both of these frameworks are often integrated within organizations that have both functions implemented. So you compare the 2 different frameworks. One consists of 7 phases. The other one consists of 5 different phases. And if you look at the integration, this is one example. There are different ways of integration, but this is one example as to how it could be integrated. When you run the first 2 phases within the product lifecycle, within the product management framework, conceive and plan, you can actually create a series of activities that can be managed as a project that go from initiation to planning to execution to monitoring to closure. And the outcome is that before you exit the second gate after plan phase, you would have some key deliverables, key processes that have gone on, a specific team of players that has been defined, and a specific outcome. Further along, you look at what happens after those first two phases, and you would go into the actual building of a product. And again, the develop and qualify phases can be separated into a specific project, which consists of specific team members, key activities that have to be performed, and deliverables, and they're all agreed upon, and they go through the 5 different phases of a project: initiation, plan, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closure. Finally, you would get into launch, and launch itself often can be a series of activities that can be managed as a project. And that's what we show in here. And then finally, in delivery, when the product is in maturity, has achieved traction in the market, has gotten growth, and now has reached maturity, there are sets of activities that happen in the deliver phase that can be managed as a project. And once again, once the product reaches the decline phase, often many companies have to figure out how to gracefully withdraw the product from the market, and the retire phase can also be managed as a project. So this is an example as to how typically in companies that have both roles, they're integrating both frameworks so that you have both functions of project management working alongside product management. And in essence, having this structure enables everyone involved, both the roles of project management and product management, to really agree upon mutual commitments and make sure that they focus on understanding who must be involved, what is the activity, why is it important to carry out that activity, when and where does it happen, and how long will it take to make it happen. And then both roles work to manage key metrics to ensure success of the projects that are going on. So a comparison further of key deliverables between one role and another shows that actually the deliverables, these are important documents that are kept by organizations when they're running either projects or when they're producing products. They're very different. And on one side, the project management, it's really mostly about ensuring that you have all the information needed to ensure that you are tracking whether or not you are meeting your quality metrics for projects. Product management, on the other hand, is tracking metrics about the conceiving and the planning, the building, the launching and marketing of products, and tracking then the performance of each product once they are introduced into a market. And that is the essence of a comparison of key deliverables between one role and another. And it's not a matter of having one set of deliverables or the other. In essence, you've got to have both if you're managing both the value that you're delivering as well as the quality of your execution when you're carrying out key activities. So the key takeaways are all summarized in this particular slide. First of all, we talked about both roles, and both roles guide key activities and decisions within product-driven companies. Both roles impact profit and loss. Project managers will focus mostly on minimizing loss and risk, whereas product managers will focus mostly on maximizing the value and the profit for the organization. And the final bullet is very important, and it's shown by looking at the most admired companies, successful companies that have become global brands. Both roles coexist, they collaborate, and they ensure that quality and value are delivered by the company. So that, in essence, concludes this particular discussion. And before we get into it, just questions, I just want to briefly introduce some upcoming activities that are coming up. And you will have a copy of these slides, as Cindy mentioned earlier. And also, if you are interested in more information, you can contact me directly. Any information about AIPMM, membership benefits, certification courses, any of these in here, you feel free to contact me. Either connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter, or contact me directly via email. Cindy, so at least at this point, we're ready for questions.
Great. So let me view. Do you see the same challenges in all size companies? Or is there a difference between smaller and bigger companies in the key challenges? And that's for both product managers and project managers.
That's a great question. Actually, when I talk to early stage startups, and I work with early stage startups very often, what I tell them is that the reason why in many organizations both roles are confused is because in many cases, as companies, when they're in the early stage, their people are very, the company itself is very resource limited, and therefore people have to wear multiple hats. And when you have a small company, a small team, it's okay to have one person that is acting as a product manager as well as a project manager, because the size of the team is small. However, as the company grows, you really have to focus on how do you adopt and implement both the project management process in parallel with your product management process, and realize that there definitely is a difference between both functions, and that you can't assume that because you have someone that is great at doing one of these functions can also seamlessly, with no training and no education, perform the other function. They could adopt and make decisions, but in many cases you will develop blind spots that are not necessarily transparent to anyone within the organization. And this is what happens in many cases in early stage startups, is that because they're resource limited, they often will have one person wearing both hats, and they fail to implement both roles in parallel once they begin to grow.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and definitely I agree that training would definitely help people who. This is not an easy transition from a project manager to a product manager, even though they might be scoped that way in the small companies.
Yes, and I see this happening in many cases when companies have gone from early stage startups and they're getting some traction in the market and they need to grow, and they fail to implement both roles simultaneously, because really you need to have both roles to be successful in the marketplace. And this is the reason why, in many cases, within the first 5 to 7 years of inception of a company, 50% of companies fail. And that's regardless of industries or products that they're putting into market. That is a staggering statistic. I often, when I talk to early stage startups, I tell them, you've got to be early adopters of critical functions that will help you not only get traction in the market, but figure out how to scale what you're doing so that you can actually start reaching out to more customers at the same time that you are planning how you're going to be growing without it being a painful experience for your company.
So I think you're talking about strategy, strategically thinking, and being able to view the market, what exists, what doesn't exist, what's missing, how people are currently solving problems. That's critical to a product manager, not necessarily at all on the project manager list.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So how would you define the difference between internal and external product managers? I consider my market to be a finite user audience with less emphasis on P&L growth and more on TCO and taxation, TXN costs.
So in essence, for project managers that are internally focused, they're usually working with development teams, both development and testers, anyone that gets involved in the building and design of a product, for example. That's an example of project managers that are mostly internally focused. Project managers that are mostly externally focused happen to be in the supply chain. So, for example, if you have an extensive supply chain, you need a manager that is managing all your suppliers. The supply chain manager is really an acting project manager that is managing key suppliers for the company. So that's an example of an externally focused project manager. Not always needed. It depends on how it is that you are building or assembling a product. But in many organizations, especially that require manufacturing and complex operations, the function of supply chain management is really a specialized role of project management.
Right, unless you're talking about product marketing managers who are looking at the distribution channels.
Correct. So on the demand side, if you're managing on the demand side, you're really more of a product marketing role when you're managing your distributors, your resellers, and any distribution channels that you have, whether it's wholesalers, retailers, or value-added resellers. Those are all typically managed by a product marketing manager. And this is when it's critical for a product marketing manager to also have project management skills, because you will need those to manage the distribution channels effectively.
So specifically in a service-based company, could you speak to how project management and product management might be different there?
Yes. So typically in a service organization, you might have titles. First of all, the product management title might actually change to that of a service manager instead. And then you might have your project manager role implemented as well. Project managers are mostly internally focused, meaning that they are focused on managing anyone that is providing a product to the staff that is providing the services. So, for example, when the people that are actually customer-facing, providing the service, they will typically need either tools or products, and those products can be either internally built by an organization or they can be acquired from suppliers, or a combination of both. And typically you will need a project manager to either manage the supply chain for anything that you acquire or that you outsource in your implementation of products, or the coordination of the development teams involved in building products that are critical for the people, the staff that is customer-facing and will need those products and tools to deliver the services. So you really would have the coordination at the project management level is really about internal, or it could be about managing suppliers needed for people to actually deliver services. The customer-facing people are different than the people managing building of the products or the management of acquisition of tools needed to deliver the service.
Great. So there's two overlapping questions here. Let's go with the first one. Would you say that a product manager needs project managers for each step of the product management lifecycle?
It depends. In some cases, if as a product manager you have only one product and that's all you're managing, it may be that you may not need a project manager. However, when you start managing multiple products, some of which are being built, while some others are already in market, typically you will need to have a project manager to help you, because the project manager usually will help in making sure that while those products that are being built, that everything remains in schedule, and that if the scope needs to change, then they're managing the other constraints of the project of building a product. On the other hand, if it's only one product, usually one person can do both the managing of the projects that need to be done for building the product and also introducing it into market. So you find that if you're a product manager, it really depends on the scope of your role. If you're responsible for only one or two products, you may actually be able to do both roles effectively. But as soon as you start developing either multiple products that are all part of a full product line, or that you're managing product lines that are really a subset of a larger product portfolio for the company, you will need to then work with multiple project managers to help you coordinate internal activities, because those internal activities tend to be more tactical rather than strategic, and the product manager needs to stay focused on strategic work as well as make sure that they keep the eye on the market, which is all about understanding any trends that are changing in the market, or any needs or behavior from customers that are changing that will actually may justify changing the course of what is being built currently, or or how products are currently being marketed to those target customers.
So you touched on a couple of points. I just want to underline, Hector, that, gosh, in an ideal situation, yes, a product manager would have access to working with many different project managers, because the project manager is carrying through on all the details, and as you said, for each tactical issue, where the product manager is looking much broadly at and staying with that product through all of the life cycle milestones. So let's see.
And that is correct. If you're in a small company or a startup, you may have no choice. You're basically playing both roles, and you may need to do that until you get traction in the marketplace. And that as you grow, you will see that it'll be very critical that a product manager, as they get more responsibilities and the size of the product portfolio they're managing increases, they will usually will need to interface and collaborate with multiple project managers.
So, and here's a second question related to that. As a product manager, how can I influence my ideas and enhancements to the project manager?
So this is all about communication and the way that you would collaborate between, if you're a product manager and you would collaborate with a specific project manager. What I would say is that when you are the kinds of discussions and communication that occur between a product manager and a project manager, especially when the product is being built, it's all about understanding whether, because of some change in market trend or customer need or behavior, there's a need to either descope the project or rescope the project or look at any of the other constraints that impact what is being built. And if the project manager will say, if I change my scope, then I will probably need to change my schedule, and also then, by the way, my cost will change, because those are all interrelated. And this is where it is critical for both roles to be working together, that when something changes either with market or customers, that information is communicated, understood by the product manager, and then communicated to the project manager to figure out what is the best course of action for the rest of the team that is busy building a product.
Excellent. And I want to add my soft skill answer to that question. As a product manager, take the project manager to lunch, because a product manager has a bigger view and a bigger vision of where the product has been and where it's going, whereas the project manager is focused and zeroed in and has tunnel vision on what they need to accomplish. Take them to lunch. The project manager is depending on the product manager to give them insights and to help them, and maybe even facilitate their ability to work cross-functionally. So product managers take each project manager individually to lunch and enjoy chatting and listening to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think there really needs to be a clear line of communication between both roles. And if you have people working, managing projects and other people working in products, communication on a daily basis is critical. And you need to understand that everything that project managers do is really mostly about ensuring that you have high quality. And the way that they measure high quality is they want to make sure that they are building the requirements as agreed, which is the scope of the project. They are building it on time, within schedule, and on budget. So they're tracking all three of those. When you bring in a request or a change based on some fact, you've got to make sure that you can clearly communicate that it is a fact, that it's a trend, and that you can clearly then identify what are the options. And in many cases, it really is about understanding that while the product is being built, the risk that is being introduced comes from external factors that have to do with changes in the market or customers, and the result could be your list of things that must be included in this version of the product changes. You might agree that the nice-to-haves can be removed as a trade-off, but there's always going to be a trade-off between the value that you're delivering versus the quality of the project while the product is being built. And this is the discussions where you need to have a clear communication between the product manager and the project manager. And one focuses on quality, the other one on the value being delivered on the version that's currently being implemented, on the product version that is currently being built.
So, Hector, there is PMP certification for project managers. So what is the comparable certification for product managers? And this was a question. I did not see this.
Okay. So PMP is the leading certification for project management that is actually given by the Project Management Institute, PMI. AIPMM, the Association of International Product Marketing and Management, has two different internationally recognized certifications. One is the CPM, the Certified Product Manager, and the second one is the Certified Product Marketing Manager, CPMM. And those two certifications are provided by AIPMM. If you compare the model for one versus the other, both the PMP and the CPM and CPM all require passing a certification exam. And so they're very similar models that you have to then demonstrate your and validate your expertise, your experience in the respective domains of either project management, if you're interested in obtaining the PMP, And when it comes to the CPM and CPMM, you would have to demonstrate and validate your expertise in product management and product marketing. Now, the same way that you can actually prepare for PMP certification by taking some sort of prep course, there are also prep courses available to prepare professionals interested in the CPM or the CPMM credentials to actually go through training and prepare for the certification exam. And if you want more information regarding certification courses from AIPMM for either the CPM, the CPMM, or any of the previously mentioned certifications, feel free to contact me. I can provide you more information as to where you can go to actually get trained and prepare to take those certification exams.
Excellent. And so a question about the Prod Bach versus the PM Bach. So the PM Bach is taught in order to get PMP certification. Is a Prod Bach taught at that level as well?
The answer is yes for both. So the PMBOK is really the body of knowledge that prepares you for PMP certification. The ProdBOK is the body of knowledge that prepares you for either the CPM or the CPMM credentials.
Okay, and is there a study guide?
The study guide for the PMBOK exists, and that is available from PMI. The guide for the ProdBOK is currently it's in the process of being published, and we're looking at it'll be published in the next couple of months, and it'll be available in the next couple of months.
Excellent. Yes, I know that that's been being worked on. It's a huge endeavor to come up with a body of knowledge, and it's very exciting that the AIPMM has been leading that endeavor to capture a product management body of knowledge, which is greatly wanted and needed. Okay. The CIL Certified Innovation Leader Training, does that encompass the ProdBOK?
So the answer is yes. The Certified Innovation Leader is a credential that actually is aligned with the ProdBOK, the body of knowledge for product marketing and product management, and actually is a great credential to have if you want to lead and manage innovation projects within your company. And I can provide you more information about that if you're interested in preparing for the Certified Innovation Leader certification from AIPMM.
Great. So I'm supposed to drive or counsel project managers to achieve product objectives, but my current company sees me as a superintendent.
That is a challenge, and I would say the first thing that you need to do is my recommendation is talk to your executive team or your senior managers and share this particular presentation with them and let them know what are the critical differences between project management and product management, and talk about the risks of companies that don't understand or confuse the roles. And usually these are the companies that will invariably have a failure of products in the marketplace. And so what you're seeing right now is that you're seeing a lot of products that are being worked on simultaneously, and no one really has clarity regarding how to manage the product portfolio. You will see that as you build and launch products, they will typically not achieve what you expect them to achieve once they are introduced into a marketplace, meaning that they don't sell, or you're only selling a few and not enough to get to profitability. And in essence, this is the reason why we talk about this particular discussion, it's that we're seeing that this happens across industries with different companies, and usually will be with companies that are trying to grow, and as they grow, they just don't get the results that they expect in the marketplace once they introduce new products into the market.
Excellent. So one more question about the distinctions of certifications. What is the difference between the CPM and the ACPM?
That's a great question. So the Certified Product Manager, the CPM, is really all about, you need to understand or validate your expertise about product management as a whole. The ACPM is the Agile Certified Product Manager. It is recommended for individuals that have obtained the CPM certification, and they're working in companies that have adopted Agile development methodologies to implement their products. And usually, the Agile methodologies have been adopted by software vendors, companies that create that their products are strictly software. And that's the difference between ACPM and the CPM. Is the ACPM tends to be more focused on the additional expertise that you would need to understand about Agile development methodologies.
Excellent. So, okay, let's see. So would you recommend getting the CPM first and then the ACPM? So I am CPM and also CPMM certified, and I've taken the ACPM course. And yes, if you don't have a foundation, this is my opinion. I definitely suggest doing the CPM before the ACPM. What do you think, Hector?
I agree with that. I think the basis is you've got to have the CPM first or CPMM, and once you get that, then you can then look at getting the ACPM. The ACPM is specific to companies that have adopted an Agile methodology for developing software products.
Would help if you're not already in an Agile environment. It gives you a whole foundation for understanding Agile and how to implement it from the product management perspective. And the CPM gives you an overview across domains, across industries of what a product management manager would do. So it gives you an orientation and a languaging to forward your career.
Yes.
So,
and if any of you are working today in Agile development environments, this is not something that we talked about, or it was outside the scope of this particular discussion. But my recommendation is that if you are managing several software products and you have now adopted Agile, do not get stuck as a product manager being the product owner. The product owner does not equal product manager. They have to be two separate people often, especially when the product manager is responsible for several software products.
So we are coming down to the end of the hour. And so it is time. So I just want to underline that if you didn't get your questions answered, and there were quite a few questions, please contact Hector directly through his email. A lot of this information is available on the AIPMM.com website under certification, under trainings, including a schedule of upcoming trainings. And yeah, so if you didn't get your questions answered live during this presentation, definitely contact Hector or myself offline afterwards. We'll make sure you get your questions answered. So now it is time for to choose the winner of the AIPMM Premium Level Membership. And the winner is Thomas Stouter. Thomas, please contact us Hector following the event so you can get access to your AIPMM premium level membership. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Hector, for joining us today. This was very, very valuable. I think we should definitely, based on the response, we should do this again. People very, very interested in the comparisons of the project management and product management frameworks and all of the other distinctions that you shared today. Join us again next week for the AIPMM webinar series where we are talking about pricing for more profitable product portfolio with Mark Stiving, who is a pricing PhD expert who advises companies on how to price their products effectively. Also, following not this Monday, you can listen to archives of the Product Management Talk on Monday. The following Monday, February 25th, I will be speaking with Purnima Vijayashankar, who is the founder of BusyBee and Femgineer, about lean product development methodology, specifically in software and startups and having to do with applying agile principles. Please subscribe to the AIPMM newsletter and follow AIPMM on LinkedIn at the company level. There's more information about certification and membership at AIPMM.com and directly through Hector. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you again, hopefully next week. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and thanks, everyone. Hopefully we'll be in touch.
Great.
I'm a hacker, I'm a con, I can't even write a song, I can't sing a note if you paid me. No one home, always gone.